you everyone for joining. It's a first webinar we're doing with Camunda to introduce what the platform can do and how we are using the platform to deliver solutions to customers. One of the key topics that's on top of the mind for everybody is to how to make agents work inside the organizations. We're seeing a lot of POCs within our customers, but it hasn't been easy moving from pilots in the last 1 year to move them into production. So what we're going to cover today is a practical way in which how we can make this happen and how we can do this in a much more structured and easy to use way using Camunda. Who do we have today with us? Most of you know me, Vasu from PebbleRoad. Worked with most of you, if not all. Thanks for joining. I'm also thankful for the Camunda team to be with us, to co-host with us and share with us their experiences with several clients that are using Camunda. We have Jared, we have Robert, and we have Abhishek from PebbleRoad who will be doing the demo later. Before we get started on what we're going to cover, I'll pass it over to Jared to welcome and do a quick intro before we get started.
Thank you, Vasu. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you to Vasu and the PebbleRoad team for setting up today's webinar, and it's an honor to be partnering with the PebbleRoad team here in ASEAN and broader APAC. As you can see on screen, my name is Jared McMahon. I'm the Regional Vice President for Camunda, responsible for APAC and working closely with our customers and partners in region. You may not be familiar with Camunda entering today's webinar, and that's okay because we intend to change that by the end of the session. As a bit of a background, globally we work with over 600 customers across a wide variety of industries, including banking, financial services, insurance, telco, public sector, retail, logistics. Take your pick. It talks to or speaks to an incredibly flexible platform that can adhere to many different use cases across many different industries. Camunda as a technology sits as an orchestration layer in all of those 600 plus customers that I mentioned, that is really at the intersection of critical processes, people and teams, legacy technology, and more importantly, and as with the focus of today's conversation, modern technology that is continuing to evolve and adapt at a rapid pace. We're investing as an organization heavily in APAC and in Singapore in particular. We've doubled the size of our team here in the last 12 months, including a very specific focus on building out our partner network and working closely with organizations like PebbleRoad that we're absolutely thrilled to be partnering with here in ASEAN. With that, that's probably enough for me for now. I'll certainly hand back over to Vasu and look forward to today's webinar. Thanks, Vasu.
Thanks, Jared. We'll hear about more use cases from Jared later once we go through the demo, so it becomes more clear on where you could be using Camunda. Here's the agenda for today. I'll be the host for the session, and there's no agentic orchestration. I'll be orchestrating the rest of the session. So I'll be the human orchestrator in this case. So we'll start with a very quick intro, but we'll spend most of our time trying to understand what's agentic orchestration and how Camunda can help us do that in a compliance and regulatory sort of an environment. To make it much more real for everyone, we're going to do a customer support demo using Camunda. And you can see how a multi-channel experience can enable that quickly, so it's much more relatable and the use case should be relevant for all the sectors as well. So we'll close off sharing some case studies and considerations on using Camunda before we will leave ample time for Q&A. You do not need to wait to the end. You have Q&A options on Zoom. Please do keep them coming. If you have a quick question while we are doing the sharing, feel free to put it into chat. We can address them as they come along as well. So we want it to be as interactive as possible. We are all connected in one way or the other, so feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go along. As said, I'll keep the intro very short and set the context before I pass it on to Rob to share what agentic orchestration is and how we can do this in Camunda. So a quick intro. Most of you are familiar with PebbleRoad, so I'll keep that very short. So it's over the last 20 years, we have led enterprise transformations for enterprises within Asia Pac. Uh, the way we have done it, it has been focused around delivering business outcomes for the organizations and embedding human-centered design principles and bringing technology into the mix, right? So that's bringing these strategy, design, and technology has been the core of how PebbleRoad has approached delivery. We worked in two big areas. One is customer service across all touch points, websites, applications. You might have worked with us for content, improving customer experience, customer support. These are areas that we have done extensive work over 100 over organizations. We've also spent enough time in improving backend organization-centric business operations. This entails process redesign, information management, modeling the data, doing the analytics and dashboards. So these two went hand in hand in the work that PebbleRoad has done. But over the last few years, we have dwelled deeper into three new areas. One, something that's more visible, is multi-modal AI applications, whether it's voice, text, data-centric, front-end applications, either for customers or for internal users to interact with agentic environments. That's what the AI applications are for. We'll deep dive a lot more into agentic orchestration and what that is and how do we enable that today. When we started doing these two, we also encountered a whole bunch of scenarios where there are unstructured data that agents sort of fall short. So we also built a solution around document intelligence as well. While we won't go through into the rest of the two areas in detail today, I'll just give you a quick snapshot. This is something that's publicly available, launched early last year, something that all of us on this call should be able to relate to. Department of Statistics published thousands of data sets out there. So we built a application that allows you to interact in a very simple natural language terms. You can ask for chicken rice in the last 10 years. You do not need to know which of those 100 data sets actually has the data. It will retrieve the data as well as plot a chart for you on the right-hand side as well. So here's an example of a multimodal AI application once the data is being processed. As mentioned, enterprise workflows don't always come cleanly in structured data. We also encounter a whole bunch of unstructured data. So we did build a solution called DocuPrism that not only does the field extraction at a significant efficiency, but also creates a graphs that eventually would power your agentic orchestration use cases for another day, for another webinar, but we'll move on to the agentic side. So over the last 20 years, we worked with several sectors, not in any way, no way, full set of clients. We worked over 150 clients over the 20 years that we have done, but we have built deeper expertise and understanding in each of these sectors for us to improve operations as well as customer service. That brings us to the topic of today. So what are we trying to address? So a Camunda research that was commissioned early, or report published early this year, says that several organizations are attempting to do agentic. In most cases, these also ends up being chatbots rather than fully agentic use cases. But even then, very few of these use cases move into production. It is not just this research. We have probably all of you have come across several research studies around similar numbers, in some cases quite dire, 5%, 6%. We've all seen these case studies as well. But the question is why? So the common reasons stated are from top left, decision makers worry about business risk. So AI is probabilistic. Businesses are worried about what happens when AI does something. We do have public cases where AI suggested something that is outside the bound of policies. So that's a main concern moving forward, right? The second big concern is, yes, there is AI in there, but can I see all the decisions and the transparency around the decisions it's being made? And the compliance regarding the AI agents, right? So if they make the decisions, what does it mean and how do we move forward? But everyone agrees that we need to be able to orchestrate this and to ensure that we have control over what decisions AI is making. We can see them, we can audit them. Then we are much more confident as organizations to deploy these agentic use cases inside organization. It very much aligns to the model AI governance framework that IMDA has released in Jan this year. The ones on the left are from a technical standpoint on whether the tools can enable us to identify this, model this, control this, which you'll see a lot of it in the demo today. The one on the right is the human side. We cannot forget that. Both from our internal users as well as external users, we need to understand when do we move the operation officers are in the end accountable for these decisions made by AI. How do we design in such a way that we can make them accountable, make it visible so they can audit it, check it, and also have rules around when do we move to human approvals as well, which we'll see in the demo as well, right? As we go along, we also need to enable everybody in the ecosystem to understand, learn, and grow. So it's as much as a human challenge as it's a technology challenge. So we'll try to address both aspects of it in the demo as well as the intro that we're going to do pretty soon. We have quite a mix of industries, I think, as we go along, as we introduce the platform and do the use case. So it will help both Rob and Abhishek to have that context in place. So I'm going to launch a quick poll to get a sense of who we have in our room. You should be able to see a poll very quickly on your screen. Just take a minute to answer the question so that what we share in the next hour or less than an hour should be contextualized to what we see and the people in the room. Let's take a minute before I play back to you on who we have. We'll give everyone else a minute. Okay, keep it coming. Maybe a quick sense. So banking and financial, public service. We have few from other sectors as well, mostly from digital transformation and innovation, business operations, AI and data teams. In terms of the agentic orchestration, some sort of exploration, um, a few POCs, some in production. Love to see how addressing the challenges, but we haven't managed to get to the fully scaled and operational. That's the intention of the sharing today. Okay. Keep it coming before I close. Okay. So with that, I'll pass it on to Rob to set the context on both agentic orchestration as well as how Camunda sort of enables agentic orchestration.
All right. All right. Good morning from me as well. Robert Emsbach. I'm heading pre-sales for the APAC region. And I want to give you a little introduction to agentic orchestration today. So we conducted a similar poll in a recent webinar, and the findings we have from that is, in general, people have challenges identifying where to start, right? Where do I get the most return on my investment into agentic solutions? That is a consideration. Then a common problem is integrating with the current systems, right? We have a diverse enterprise IT landscape, and there's a lot that we want to connect to, and to really have impactful solutions that actually help our customers, we need broad system integration and not just a fairly localized automation that deals with one system and helps us with some manual work, right? So that is a common challenge. Then, of course, risk, right? There's a lot of awareness. Everyone has seen AI hallucinating or even making wrong decisions. So there's always this governance aspect and how to make AI safe, and ultimately how to have confidence that allows us to deploy AI for mission critical things that really have an impact and really deliver on the customer expectations. And of course, when we work in regulated industries, it is paramount that we ensure that everything is traceable and auditable, and we can show with or without AI what we did and why, following what rules, right? Eliminating bias and showing compliance to auditors. So these are themes that are keeping the world busy currently in the agentic space. And at Camunda, we are convinced that agentic orchestration is a big part of the solution to these challenges. So taking a step back, just to have a common baseline, what are AI agents? So we at Camunda see it as a system of foundation models, rules, business rules frequently, an architecture, and tools which enable software to flexibly plan, right? As opposed to very rigid traditional programming or orchestration. So AI agents can flexibly plan to adapt and ultimately achieve a goal, right? So we are no longer focused on primarily on the process, how we get to a result, but we start with the result in mind and allow flexible AI to produce this result. And around that, we create the conditions technically that enable AI to do that in a scalable, reliable, secure way. And as we manage to do this, we can then gradually increase the level of autonomy, right? We want humans in the loop. We don't trust agents, at least initially, but as we get better results, we are typically willing to increase the level of trust towards the agent and the level of autonomy, and therefore the value we get out of the agentic solution. So why is orchestration here so important? Right? On the one hand, we have agents that decide what needs to happen to achieve an outcome. So here we have an agent orchestrating things. On the other hand, if we have many agents in an enterprise that do isolated things and help us automate, then there is a need to decide when which agent should perform a step of the value creation for our customers. So that is the part where we need to orchestrate the agents. So orchestration matters in both directions. And it is more important than ever. Based on a poll, actually a study, State of Process Orchestration and Automation. It's an annual study we support. 83% of executive leaders are driving AI strategy at their companies, but the majority of them has challenges, right? So companies struggle to scale and operationalize AI really, right? Go beyond the prototypical isolated use case and really create value, really have an impact for the customer and increase the customer satisfaction, the Net Promoter Score, and our competitive stance, or just reduce cost. And on the other hand, 90% indicate that orchestrating AI is critical to ensuring compliance with regulations. Right? So if we just launch AI, then it is a black box. We have no clear traceability and auditability for regulators. And orchestration helps to address this challenge. What does that mean? Orchestration. So traditionally, when we think about our business processes and how we get something done for our customers, we have a very fixed process, right? It is deterministic. We sit down and we think about rules and how we want to achieve an outcome. We need to perform different steps, and if this rule applies, then we do something else, and if another rule applies, we go down another path. Right? So this is powerful, and Camunda has been in this space for very long. We can create great efficiencies, reduce technical debt, increase automation, become faster, but we lack flexibility in these scenarios. It is very hard to tell upfront when designing a system, a solution, what are all the scenarios that our solution needs to cover. Say, if you think about a complex medical claim, for instance, right? There's quite some complexity and knowledge-intensive work where human judgment has traditionally been required a lot, right? A small car insurance claim maybe is easier to automate fully, but when complexity increases, we traditionally depend on humans, knowledge workers that can exercise judgment and reasoning. And with AI coming into the picture, we are able to automate more of this. Right? AI now enables us to handle also these more flexible, more dynamic parts with IT support. And that is the dynamic part of orchestration. So to really be successful, we need to combine both of these things. If we only do orchestration, then the ultimate deterministic orchestration, then the ultimate solution is too rigid and doesn't cover all use cases. If we go full AI and fully dynamic, then it is hard to audit it, and it is hard to enforce rules, and it becomes quite costly because many of you may have seen interference of AI can become quite costly, right? So we don't need AI for everything, but it is extremely helpful for the flexible parts that we see in our business processes. Yeah, so the ideal solution gives us best of both worlds. We blend deterministic and dynamic execution when we support our customers with our business processes. And we do this creating visibility, auditability, and guardrails around the modern AI usage. When we put this into a serious business context, then usually we are dealing with business processes that are running over longer periods of time, right? When you think about an insurance claim or in customer onboarding in a bank or a service that a public office is providing. These typically many things need to happen, and it takes several days or weeks for things, even if we speed it up with AI, to get this done, right? So we also need an infrastructure that can reliably store this kind of information and not forget what is going on for prolonged periods of time, right? That's a basic requirement. So agentic orchestration provides this foundation that allows you to combine this deterministic orchestration of your typical business process, as we have been doing it for years, right? So here you see an example, orange boxes, very, very clear, first this, then that, right? In a sequence, these things to happen. Eventually, there's some kind of decision. We go left or right. Okay, that's the traditional way. And that is a traditional flowchart or process model, right? It's very popular with humans when we think about processes and how things happen, because it gives you a visual way of understanding and communicating the business process. And it is also good common language for business and IT people to communicate about the business process together. Well, and for that reason, it has been around for decades. The new element here is now that we want to add AI to these kind of business processes. So with Camunda, we decided that the AI agents do not happen somewhere in a different system, not necessarily outside of this graphical process model, but we decided that we want to visualize also the agentic part of the support for the customer, the business process, in the same model. So in the blue box, you see we have now added a dynamic component to this flowchart. In the blue box, we have possibilities that can happen. Yeah? So AI takes over control. We do no longer have a rigid, deterministic sequence of things that need to happen, but we give freedom to AI to decide what needs to happen to achieve an outcome. And we specify in the box the different tools AI is allowed to use to achieve this outcome. And these tools can be other agents. Yeah? So we now have AI orchestrating agents that you have in your company already. And there are more sophisticated elements that add dynamic behavior. For instance, agents can be interrupted by things that happen in the real world, right? So the green dot illustrates something from outside is happening, or the agent is observing an unexpected situation, and this can now lead to a different behavior. And in this example, you see we have the human in the loop, right? Because that's what most people want. They want AI to help them, but they don't want to hand over control completely, right? So we have a seamless combination between AI supporting knowledge-intensive tasks, but we can still pass judgment to the human, or we can allow human to ultimately validate the reasoning AI has applied to the case. Yeah, so coming back to the health insurance claim, right? AI could run research, can ask the customer for supporting documents, can maybe schedule appointments with additional medical specialists. But ultimately, whatever AI does, it will prepare a decision. And at the end, we have a human who exercises the ultimate judgment on this case with everything prepared and automated by AI that leads up to it. So that is the approach, how Camunda is combining traditional deterministic process management and modern agentic flexibility into a shared graphical model that can be understood by business and IT, and allows us to design and audit what is happening in our businesses. You will see that this approach in action in the demo that is about to follow, and I'm passing over to Abhishek for this.
Thank you, Rob. So as Rob has shared, that's at the context, right? So we have agents doesn't mean that everything needs to be given to agent. That's one of the concerns that we have seen during the intro that the leaders have, right? Is it making the right decisions? And we can also see that in the IMDA framework guidelines as well, which is as organizations, we have to determine what makes sense for the agents to do and to what extent do we give the data, to what extent we want it to do the decision making as well. And when it is controlled and deterministic in nature, then we should be doing deterministic and not just giving it to agents, right? So as Rob said, over to Abhishek. He'll run through how that approach in Camunda comes live with a customer support use case.
Thank you, Vasu, and thank you very much, Rob, for setting the context of enterprise orchestration. My name is Abhishek. A very good morning to everyone joining us today. I'm a service designer at PebbleRoad, and in the next 30 to 40 minutes, I'll be bringing you through 3 POCs that we have designed specifically for the banking sector, which will illustrate how the agentic orchestration can be applied to these various use cases that we'll highlight in just a moment. As next steps, I'd like to bring you through 3 key shifts that agentic orchestration will achieve if it's implemented well. In today's reality, customer service support staff often face high volume of customer queries coming in, and often through multiple touch points. It might be through email, it might be a call, and many a times in the banking sector or other sectors as well, you may have fragmented systems where customers' knowledge in a knowledge database of the organization is sitting on different systems, and they may not be talking to one another, which might cause lapses in judgments as well as rules. This causes key issues such as frustrations due to delays, as well as sudden customers' replies not being answered promptly. And this causes a loss of reputational trust to the organization. So how do we tackle this? Through agentic orchestration, we feel that there are 3 key shifts that it can achieve. Firstly, it allows for an increase in straight-through processing rate. What this means is that the number of touch points that are there between the human, the customer support agent staff will reduce, and the amount of touch points that are there with the AI agent will increase. But having said that, this is done in a very responsible manner, and it can actually be a very guided process. Overall, this will reduce the amount of cycle time it takes to actually respond to any customer support inquiry that is coming in, and frees up the human experts to focus on more escalated cases, which the AI agent has deemed as critical, and it's unable to answer. So in the next slide, I'm going to bring you through the overall flow that we have designed. So what you're seeing over here is I think it's the first time that you might be seeing a Camunda diagram. So this is the end-to-end diagram that we'll be demoing today. What you're seeing here, the starting off point is that this is actually a smart AI assistant, which uses Camunda to help customers over email and WhatsApp. So we think of it like a digital worker that can hold a real back and forth conversations with various customers. So when a customer begins by sending a message, currently we have designed it to be triggered by an email that's coming in. The AI agent will figure out what needs to be done, and hence it will pass to the AI agent, which you can see highlighted in the pink box over here. In the pink box, there are many different tools which are available for the AI agent to utilize. For example, there are different scenarios that we have designed for today. For example, if the issue is related to card eligibility, you can actually use the tools that are available within the card eligibility process to answer and reply to the customer. And similarly, if it's related to a fee waiver or unknown transaction, it can also do that. So these many different tools which are available for the AI agent to use, and the AI agent can decide which ones are the most appropriate to be used for different types of inquiry. And after which, if the AI agent is satisfied that it has answered the questions, the customer queries well, and the customer says that I do not have any further questions, it exits the loop and it goes into the second stream over here, where we have another agent as a judge to judge how this particular agent has performed in terms of its duties. And if the agent deems that, hey, I do not think that you have performed well, you can actually escalate to a human specialist as well. So these are the multiple different guardrails I'll be walking you through today to ensure that the process that we're designing has sufficient guardrails and is done in a very responsible manner. So there are three demos that we like to bring you through today. The first is dealing with card availability and eligibility. Many a times a bank has multiple cards to offer to its various customers. So when a customer sees those various cards, many a times a question that arises is that which cards am I eligible for? So the first POC will deal with that scenario. The second scenario is dealing with fee waiver request. For example, if you have a particular card and you need to pay the annual fees, so you're applying for a fee waiver request. Sorry, a fee waiver request in that situation. And a third one is actually dealing with handling safe and suspicious transactions. Many times, if our transactions exceed a particular threshold, it triggers an automated response by banks as well. Or if there are any suspicious transactions that are deemed suspicious by the bank will also alert us. So we'll see how that is being orchestrated. Okay, so if we look at the first scenario is looking at card availability and eligibility. So a customer is keen to know the available cards which are available, and how this will be done is by Camunda actually talking to the knowledge database that is set up for the bank itself, and this knowledge database is set up on Amazon OpenSearch. So all the card details are in the background, and it's basically getting the details from them, and then subsequently which cards they're eligible for will be the next question it will be handled. So it starts off with a customer query coming into the system, and the AI agent will analyze the intent. It will extract the knowledge database regarding the cards being offered, and subsequently it will assess the eligibility based on the customer's profile and informing the customer. So for this first POC, first demo, we are assuming that this is done from the point of view of a customer. So we would not be showing you any of the back-end Camunda workings and how it actually operates. We'll be keeping it really just from a customer lens, how the customer might be interacting with Camunda in the future if this was implemented. And before we begin, one of the key assumptions that we have here is that the customer is already authenticated in the sense that the customer is already logged in into a particular platform, and the bank is able, and the AI agent is able to assess the customer's details. So to start us off, we'll be going to just a second. Sorry, just okay. Okay, so to start us off, we'll be drafting an email to the Camunda agent, asking it to essentially help us find out a little bit more about the different cards which are available. So in this case, the Camunda agent's email is called camunda.pr@gmail.com. And the question I'm asking is, what are the available cards? Dear Camunda Bank, may I find out more about the different cards which are available? Thank you. Appreciate it. So I've drafted a simple email to the Camunda agent, and I'm asking it for the different cards which are available, and I'll just send it over. So what it's doing in the background is that it is receiving, it takes a minute for it to receive the email, which will trigger the process, and the process will begin. So just shuttling back. So we are here. So once the email is received, it will shuttle inside here, right, the knowledge base over here. And once it has received the replies, it will send a reply back via the outreach channel. So we'll just give it a minute for it to be triggered as well as the response to be received.
So the request could be coming from any channel. It could be a chatbot. It could be business WhatsApp. It could be coming from a web application for the thing. It doesn't need to. It's as what Abhishek mentioned. The early assumption is that we can identify the customer. In this case, it's using the email to identify, but in other cases, they could be using your login mechanism to do. The same process or the workflow can start processing independent of the channel.
Absolutely. And we have seen that the reply has just come in, and the reply says, "Dear Abhishek," so it's customized to me. Thank you for reaching out to Camunda Bank, and we are pleased to provide you with an overview of the cards. And it lists for me the 10 various cards which are available. And it also lists for me the credit limit of each card and additional details which are relevant, such as cashback opportunities for each card. And it also says this is an AI-generated response. And if you'd like to speak to the human agent, please reply with agent. So I can also do that and contact the customer service agent if I'm not satisfied with the response that's coming in via the AI agent. If I turn my attention to WhatsApp as well, we can see that the response has actually come in here. So it says, "Dear Abhishek, thank you for reaching out to Camunda Bank." So quite a similar response that we see that's coming in via email, right? So that's the omni-channel that Vasu was mentioning. And I can come here into WhatsApp and I can ask, can I find out about which cards am I eligible for? So the response has again been registered with Camunda itself, and it is now processing the response. So we'll just give it a minute for it to process. And the answer has come in that based on our assessment, we are currently eligible for the following cards. So now to explain how it does that, I just wanted to let you know that it takes in the age, income, and residency and credit score of the particular individual. And it basically is able to output which cards and pre-approved limits that they're eligible for based on that. So there's a certain decision making that's being done by Camunda on the background based on the details of the particular customer. And that's how it's able to shortlist and to identify exactly which cards they're eligible for. So I think that's quite key. So we'll close this first POC here by saying thank you. And we'll proceed to our second POC. Okay, and as we can see here, the email has also been received in camunda.pr@gmail.com, and it shares with me the different cards that I'm eligible for. So now I would like to circle back to my slides and just to bring you to the first POC once more. So we have done the first POC. We have seen how it's able to come back to us with different cards which are available, as well as which cards they're eligible for based on the different criteria. So that concludes the first POC, and we have seen both WhatsApp as well as Gmail being utilized for this POC. I will now turn our attention to the second POC, which is dealing with a fee waiver request. So how the second POC works is that, again, the customer will be the one who is initiating and talking to the system, and the AI agent will analyze the core intent of the email. And the second point here is saying that it will assess the fee waiver assessment and see based on the customer's profile. So again, we have different types of input data that's coming in based on the customer's profile, such as the kind of annual spend they may have had in the past few years, the late payment charges, that if they have any late payments in the last year, as well as a tenure of holding the particular card. After assessing this, they're able to respond to the particular customer with a response, whether the fee waiver is granted or not. And subsequent to that, if in this case, the customer will say that, I'm not happy. I would like to, request again by speaking to the human in the loop. I would like to, really request for one. And then let's see how that whole thing kind of goes through, right? So now I'll head back to the Gmail, and I will write another email to the Camunda agent. and I'll say fee waiver request. Dear Camunda Bank, could I please request for a fee waiver? Regards, Abhishek. Okay. So now it has been sent. Okay, let's give it another minute for it to process. Okay, so the email has come in from Camunda itself that, Dear Abhishek, thank you for reaching out to Camunda Bank, and we have reviewed the request for an annual fee waiver. Unfortunately, we are unable to approve your request at this time, and our records indicate there have been late payments on your accounts in the last 12 months. So it gives us a reason why, and which makes you ineligible for a fee waiver under our current policy. And again, it says that if you have further questions, we're happy to help you. This is an AI-generated response. So before we move forward to the third step, I'd like to introduce to you our dashboard, which is where we will be executing part of the next phase of this POC. So this is the dashboard that we have designed. Essentially, what it does is that it pulls the data that's coming into Camunda itself, and it will display it on this front screen. And this is rather customizable. So all the data and the variables, all instances and processes which are being run can be displayed on the front end. And if you see the second POC really from a customer support agent staff, we believe that this is a version of this could be made available to them to execute their daily responsibilities. So if I'm a customer support staff lead, for example, and as a supervisory role, I can actually come in here and I can see the total number of cases which have been received for a particular day, for example. How many of those are active? How many of them have been completed? And if there have been any incidents, so to speak. And it gives us multiple different details as well, such as the case status mix. So it gives us a nice dashboard in that sense, and the resolution times that it took to actually proceed to execute those various cases. It also gives us a breakdown of the various types of queries that have come in, whether the queries have been related to unknown transactions, card availability, card eligibility, because as a customer support agent staff, you're dealing with different scenarios. So it's just good to know how many of these have you received from time to time. Also, how much time are we spending on our processes? Since 1st of April, we have spent 4 days and 22 hours. And I think also quite nicely, it also tells us how many times were humans actually involved in those processes, and what kind of responses they might have given. If I need to know, I can also find out how much money has been consumed, how many tokens have been consumed by AI agents in order to process my various processes, and how much does it cost what's the cost to my organization. It also presents nice heat maps. These heat maps are really it is showing us in the background how the processes are being run, and it tells us if a certain process or certain task within this entire process is taking up more time or is slightly more important for us to actually try and figure out how do we minimize that. And it also shows us the recent queries. So if you go into all the queries, we can actually see that some of the queries that just came in. So I can actually see the entire history, right? So there's a lot of transparency that is possible with Camunda itself, is that I can see the entire response chain. So dear Camunda Bank, is my first question. Could I please request for a fee waiver? And then it shows us the thinking that went into it replying to us as well. So the customer, Abhishek, has requested a fee waiver, and I ran the fee waiver tool, which received a rejection request with a reason, and this is the reason that I've communicated with them. So it shows us quite nicely what has happened. Now let's turn attention to WhatsApp as well. And in WhatsApp, we also see that that particular response has been received, and it says it's AI generated. So I'll go ahead and I will type that, can I please request for a waiver because I'm in need of financial assistance. So I'm talking to the AI agent and giving them a reason to request for a fee waiver. And so what it does next is that it will actually raise it to the human in the loop, and that's me again. So I'm double hatting here. So what I'll do is that I'll just wait for it to come in again. And there's a new button called task that has been created. So this task tab is quite interesting. It shows me as a customer support agent what are the different queries that may have come in and what has been a response like. So this request is summarized by the AI agent themselves. And it informs me that a customer with the email ID abhishek@pebbleroad.com has sent in this request, and the customer is now disputing the rejection and reconsideration on the grounds of financial hardship. And this is the second fee waiver request that they have sent. So it gives us a nice summary. And what I'll go ahead and do is that I'll assign it to myself. I will go ahead and say approve fee waiver. So this is free text. It doesn't need to be in any particular format. And since it's an AI agent, it is able to understand free text well, and is able to then respond accordingly to this particular query that has come in. So let's just give it a minute for the query to come. So dear Abhishek, thank you for the patience. We have reviewed your request, and we are pleased to inform you that your annual fee waiver request has been approved. This fee will be waived on your account accordingly. So it has given me a positive response, and I'll just say thank you again, and I'll close the loop with them. And just turning our attention back to Gmail itself, we can see the response has come in here too, that we have also reviewed, and the same response can be seen here. So this brings us to the close of our second POC. In the second POC, we saw a request for a fee waiver, and we saw how Camunda evaluates this fee waiver request based on certain parameters, such as late payments of this particular individual in the past year. And we also have shown how a human in the loop can come in to handle certain requests from the customer if need to. So that's just an example of how human in the loop actually works, and we'll be showing you a couple of more examples in the third POC itself. So now we'll turn our attention to the third POC. The third POC is about handling safe and suspicious transactions. So there are a couple of steps here. I think this is one of the more extensive POC that we'll be covering. So first of all, we'll be showing you the Camunda backend. So this third POC is really from the point of view of a technical person who perhaps is setting up the Camunda flow and seeing it being executed on the Camunda platform itself. What we'll be showing you is that how can a bank actually go in and mark certain transactions as safe or suspicious. And the customers, once they receive that a particular transaction has been marked as suspicious, they can actually respond to that particular email and have a quick conversation with them. So we'll show you how that entire conversation works. So just give me a second. Let me just set it up, and I'll the relevant screens for you to just a second. So it's just loading, and I'm going to bring it over. Yeah. Okay. So before we go into the process itself, let me give you a broad overview about the Camunda platform itself, because it's the first time that everyone here will be looking at it. It's just logging me in. Okay. Okay, so this is the Camunda platform. This is one of the processes that we'll be running through today. But before we go into the process itself, I just wanted to introduce to you that the overview of Camunda itself. So it has multiple different elements to it. We'll start off with console. So console is where you can actually see the organizations. This is the organization's admin portal where you control who in the organization is part of Camunda, what are the processes which are running. The second is called modeler. That's where you actually model. So this is modeler. This is what it looks like. This is where you actually model your processes itself. We have task lists. So what you saw earlier in the second POC where a human is actually responding to a form is called task list. So this is a human task which needs to be completed for the process to be executed. Next is operate and optimize. These are really interesting because operate allows us to see every single individual process instance running live. And we'll be going into that in just a second. While optimize gives us a cumulative view of various instances running, and that's what you have seen in the dashboard earlier, where it shows the cumulative view of the various processes having been run. So this is the broad overview of Camunda itself. Now what you're seeing here is another process that we have designed. This process is nice because it basically reads the data of the particular customer's past transactions. And for each transaction, it is marking it as suspicious or safe based on certain defined parameters. So let me just introduce to you what those parameters are. So what I'm clicking into right now is something called a DMN diagram. So this is where your business rules are being laid out and being applied. So here we can see that there are 4 inputs that are being fed into Camunda itself. Whether for each transaction, was the transaction done in Singapore? Was the physical card being present at the point of sale? What was the amount which was transacted, and whether there was a merchant category it belonged to? It's quite nice because if you want to actually design certain guardrails against certain sectors which are more vulnerable, such as crypto or luxury retail, you'll be able to do that. And subsequently, you can see the response which are coming out and being executed as well. The key point about DMN is that if your industry rules and regulations or your organization's rules and regulations change at any point of time, it is rather easy for us to just come in here and start editing and trying to ensure that it gets implemented and stays updated. Turning our attention back into this, I will come and deploy it. So as you can see here, on this page, there are 3 different parts to it: design, implement, and play. So play is really nice because it allows us to just to ensure that our process is running fine. It's really a development tool just to ensure that all the variables are being aligned well before we go ahead and deploy it. So if you press deploy, we have a couple of options on where you want to deploy it. You can deploy in various different areas, whether it's a development or a test cluster. And then we can see the process being run. So over here, this is how the operate dashboard actually looks like. It starts off with the dashboard itself under operate. So under operate, it shows us what are the various process instances which are running at any point of time. And it has 3 different tabs: dashboard, process, and decisions. So if you click into processes, you can see what are the different processes which have run in the last since the very beginning. And if you click into suspicious transactions, it has stopped running. So this is what it looks like. We can see that it started off here, it read the data, and it gave off certain alerts to both my email as well as WhatsApp. The nice thing is that you can go into every single activity, right? So you can come in here and you can see that, for example, in this particular scenario, the merchant category was food and beverage for a particular transaction, and transaction ID, how this was actually being executed. So there's another page that I wanted to show you. So these are the decisions which have been made in this case. So we can click into any of these decisions and we can see that for a particular inputs, what was the output like? So in this case, if a merchant category is pharmacy and amount is 45.6, it is deemed as safe. So this is a really nice tool to allow you to see transparently, how each decision was being made at any point of time, and why was a particular output being given. So you can click into any of these transactions. Each of these stands for different transactions, and you can see how the response has been like. And what we see here on our Gmail is that it shows us action required. There's been a suspicious transaction, and I'm the consumer, so I'm receiving it that that there's been a suspicious transaction in Paris for $3,490, and it gives me 2 other alerts related to one in Dublin and one in and one over the internet, essentially. So we'll go ahead and look at this particular transaction, and I'll say that, actually I was in Paris, so I would say that, dear Camunda Bank, I was the one who made this transaction. So please mark TXN 9004 as safe. I know that it says that please reply exactly, but it's nice to see what happens if you don't follow the rules, because yeah. Okay, so now I would like to show you what's happening within the process itself. So these two past processes that you see are related to the past two POCs that we have previously gone through. So this is related to the fee waiver charge, and this is related to the card eligibility. And we can see that a new third one has actually come up, that this is related to the one that we just sent. So that email has been read. So if we click into this, we can see that we can actually follow how the entire process is being run live. That's what Rob was mentioning earlier as well, using the green dot, that the customer's reply has been received, and it is essentially reading it and it's deciding what it's going to do. So it hasn't decided yet. It's still processing it at the moment. So let's just give it a moment to. And the nice thing is that if you actually see on WhatsApp, we can actually see the various alerts being given to us on WhatsApp as well. So if it's a time-sensitive alert, that's something that is critical, we can actually see it happen as well. Yeah, that happens at times. I think it's just taking a moment to warm up. Okay, so I think we might have run into difficulty here, but no worries. Let's try again. In the meantime, let me show you some other features which are really interesting as well. So if you look at the dashboard itself, we can see that there are different customers whose data is being shown. So you can actually see the customer's profile, and you can see the various transactions that they have actually transacted with. So it can show you all the various transactions of a particular person. And part of the demo is also us just trying to see if we can also email them and try and make a transaction be seen as suspicious as well. I think I'll just go ahead and I'll just restart the process.
Yeah. So the dashboard that you're seeing is pulling the data from, as what Abhishek mentioned, is pulling from Camunda. It's not full. There's a lot of data, as you can see, it tracks, but it's about deciding what makes sense for different users, right? So a customer support officer versus a customer support manager, or a management team that's trying to see the data. As the data, everything from Camunda is opened up through REST APIs, this data could be pushed and visualized in your existing systems, or we can start building quick dashboards or applications. Everything that you're seeing as the operator interface was done in the last few days. So within a week, we should get a working version of a product for different users ready as well, right? Or we could be sending it to your existing systems or interfaces. Maybe Abhishek, we move on, I guess.
Okay. Just the last one that I wanted to show you was a situation where where a particular individual, where a customer says that I have identified a fraudulent transaction. So maybe if you look at these particular history, I can maybe mark one of these as a fraudulent one. Okay, let's see what the reply is like for this. Okay, so this has worked nicely. So if we go back to the processes, we can see that the query came in being read by the agent, and we can see how it processed it. So firstly, it went to this particular task called unknown transactions, and it says that, so you can actually see the results which are coming in. So thank you for marking TXN1003 as fraudulent. As a reminder, your card remains securely frozen. So we can actually follow the entire history, and we can see that what the next activity that it did is to basically outreach back to us and saying that we have actually frozen the card. So we can see that, dear Abhishek, thank you for bringing this to attention. We have officially marked the transaction TXN1003 as fraudulent. And it also lists for me a complete list of fraudulent transactions which exist. So the next question is that does this resolve our banking inquiry? So these are some of the couple of ways in which we can actually execute the various tasks in Camunda itself. And ultimately, it allows us to see how various processes are being executed from end to end. So that'd be pretty much it from me in terms of going through this particular POC. I think in these three POCs, we have seen how Camunda itself is able to handle these various complexities and is able to give a response based on that, and how a human agent in the loop can be involved as well. And bringing it back to the model AI governance conversation that Vasu was mentioning earlier in this presentation itself, I think the key is that for any organization, we'll have to work with you to decide what are the level of controls you might want to give between a human as well as an AI agent. Ultimately, it's a business decision. But at the same time, there are a lot of guardrails that can be implemented to ensure that the entire process is done in a more rigorous and safe manner. And ultimately, it allows us to ensure that the humans remain accountable in the sense that they are able to look at the entire process from end to end and is able to execute any issues that may be coming up at any point of time itself. So I'll hand the time back to Jared to bring us through the remaining parts. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Okay.
As what Abhishek has mentioned, it's important for us to decide and design these processes. I think this has been the biggest barrier that organizations face in bringing these POCs into production. That's exactly what the platform enables us to give that confidence and control over to enable and make this happen. And these are not POCs. Customers have been using Camunda to put these workflows, agentic orchestration into production. As Rob shared earlier as well, over time, that would mean we trust more and we start adding on. But as you have seen in the demo as well, the platform makes it easy for us on an ongoing basis to keep adding additional queries and extending the use cases as well because of the data and the tracking and the logs that you have in place as well. That's where the optimize comes in. Over to Jared to share a case study around it being implemented for a client.
Yeah, thank you, Basu, and thank you, Abhishek, as well. I think that was unbelievable, actually, given the, I guess, very limited time frame in which you've been building on Camunda, and I think highlights not only the flexibility of the platform, but the intuitiveness for the technical folks to be able to come up to speed really quickly. So just to kind of bring us home today, we wanted to take the demo from somewhat of a theoretical example into a real world example of one of Camunda's customers. Shift to screen here. Hopefully you can all see that. This is a telco focused customer story, but we chose this one specifically because it fit in really nicely with the demo that you just saw from Abhishek. But is also a use case that is applicable across many, many different industries. So that's why we're focusing on Arcom. If you're unaware who Arcom are, they are a leading German telecommunications company. They've been a Camunda customer for quite some time. Their business has grown significantly over the last couple of years. And with that, of course, comes operational challenges, with some of theirs in particular being in their sort of technical support function and process. I'm sure as consumers, you have all experienced something very similar to what their customers were experiencing, with a delay in overall response time, which was leading to challenges both from a customer churn and customer experience standpoint, but also challenges with the regulator in Germany. If you think about your own life as a consumer, and myself being from Australia, we have some challenges with our NBN, National Broadband Network at times. You get on your app for your telco company, you call them, you message them on WhatsApp or whatever it might be, and it's this constant series of handoffs between different levels of technical support people within the organization, different departments within the organization, and usually for me leads to oh, can you just go to your modem and take all the power cords and the Ethernet cables out and count to 10 and plug them back in, and magic happens from that point. That was the reality for a lot of Arcom's customers, and also led to challenges for their own team. And I highlighted before that they had very strict SLAs, and ones that I think are quite reasonable from a regulator, in that they needed to respond to technical support tickets within 8 hours. There were examples of their customers that would be without internet across the weekend because of the manual nature of handoffs from system to system and technician to technician. Fast forward, now they engaged Camunda to help build out an agentic orchestration process within their technical support process. This is not a chatbot. It's not a frequently asked questions page that's dressed up with a funny logo to help address customer problems. This is an intelligent AI agent that has been embedded within what was their deterministic process. That agent consumes the Arcom knowledge base just like their human technicians would. It's integrated with their ticketing system, and allows them to develop skills ongoing to address multiple different technical support requests and requirements. Plus, it's also got the ability, as you saw from the demo before with Abhishek, for human agents to either intercept some of those specific processes or escalate to a human where the AI is unable to address and resolve the particular challenges that they're experiencing. Talking about results, within 90 days of launching this particular agentic orchestration use case, over 60% of their incoming technical support requests are now handled end-to-end by the AI agents with zero human interaction, but 100% visibility and auditability for the regulator. Their SLA and transparency around their SLA has gone from hours in terms of that first level of response down to minutes, largely driven by the streamlining of the process and the ability of the AI agents to engage very quickly, and importantly, reducing the churn that they are experiencing, improving customer experience in a very limited set of time. This is not just possible with isolated AI agents. It didn't just respond fast, right? It's actually about responding accurately to get the right answer and the right outcome for customers. This is where we genuinely see the ability also to escalate to those human agents for use cases that the trust or technical support cases that the trust is not yet fully built in AI agents, and those things will evolve over time, but seamlessly handing off to the human agent with the right level of background and understanding so that you're providing a seamless experience for your own end customers. We're actually working on very similar use cases, a number of very similar use cases with some customers both here in Singapore and more broadly in ASEAN as well, and would love to explore similar opportunities with yourselves. For now, though, I'm between you and lunch, so I'm going to hand back to Vasu, and we might wrap up with some Q&A, but back to you, Vasu. Vasu, you're on mute if you're unexpected to be.
Maybe we do have 10 minutes. We'll take some questions. As we have Jared in front of for the video, I'll just shoot. There's one question in the chat. I'll just read it out, Jared, to you. Could you share how this orchestration system enables client-side product owners or PMs to evaluate and validate orchestration workflows and outcomes?
I might actually pass off that question to Rob, but we'll probably have to have a repeat of the question as well.
Yes,
please.
Yeah. Could you share how this orchestration system enables client-side product owners or PMs to evaluate and validate orchestration flows and outcomes?
Okay, so you see there is a graphical model, right? So business logic and the orchestration layer is not buried in code. So this creates a common language for business and IT. Frequently, product owners are less technical and not exactly the programmer type, but care more about business outcomes and maybe with AI giving them new options, reimagining their business processes and how they create more value or value in a better way for their customers, right? So the graphical way of doing these kind of design thinking workshops, really, how do we want the process to be in the future, that lends itself very well to this exercise, right? I can very flexibly change the sequence of steps in the process when I do what in a graphical form, and it is immediately executable. The system will immediately read this diagram and change its behavior accordingly. So it leans itself very naturally towards experimenting, prototyping, even A/B testing different variants of the process, what resonates better with the customers, what leads to a higher Net Promoter Score. So does that speak to the question, or was that
Yeah,
aspect?
it does. Maybe just to add to that, right? So I think the best example is as what Jared mentioned. Abhishek is not a technical person. He's a PM and a service designer for us. It's purely from a business side, but most of what you have seen today is done by Abhishek. Yes, there is a technical team that came in for integrations and helping to connect, but what questions to show, what data needs to be shown, where it needs to be shown, everything was designed and put in place by Abhishek. So the platform essentially enables mostly non-technical folks to understand what the process is, what's the rules that governing it, what's happening in these processes, analyze the data, so you can come up with ideas on how you want to improve moving further. I didn't see any other questions. Maybe as I have both of you, maybe I would just, yeah, thank you. Maybe I'll just shoot another question, I guess, commonly that we see that might be useful for others here. What's the main, proposition for Camunda over other process-based systems, right? So whether it's Pega, Salesforce, Kato, N8N, what's the key and which sort of use cases where it stands out, right? I think.
I might answer more broadly and then have Rob fill some of the gaps as well. It's a really good question. And if I think about something like the Gartner Magic Quadrant for BOAT, which came out late last year, BOAT being business orchestration automation technologies, what a confused space and message that shares. There's absolutely some gold nuggets in there, but if you look at the variance of, I think there was 20 different organizations in that Magic Quadrant, which we did very well in, but there's organizations that we would naturally look at and think, well, we don't really compete with those organizations. They're integration technologies. So they're all in their own right. I think they're all excellent pieces of technology, but they don't necessarily focus in the same place that we focus. If it was, to address a Pega or an Appian type conversation, part of our value proposition for our customers is, and increasingly is, we want to help those organizations maximize the investment that they've already made in legacy technology, or thinking about more modern technology around AI agents. We want to empower those organizations to use the right tool at the right time for the right job. Now, maybe that requires some Camunda capability, but maybe it's a capability that you already have. Camunda, as the orchestration layer, provides that end-to-end visibility through deterministic and dynamic workflows, provides the guardrails around some of those modern pieces of technology like Agentic AI, right? And allows you to reliably audit and communicate with the regulator in your industry.
As a short answer, I would add it is the openness, flexibility, and composability that Camunda gives you, and the specialization on being just, in quotes, just an orchestration layer. So we are not trying to be your system of records or replace everything you have in a big bang, right? We fit in and we orchestrate your reinvented AI-enabled business processes across your existing diverse enterprise landscape. And for that, we need to be very versatile. We have competitors that have a very different value proposition, that have a complete stack, right? They hold data, they do business logic in the middle, and they mandate a certain user interface. You get a very holistic solution, but it's inflexible, right? So that's where we differentiate towards some of the big players in the market, that they are giving a holistic solution while we give flexibility to innovate and adopt AI gradually into your existing enterprise stack. And when you look a little bit what is currently happening in the industry and how AI is changing the whole world, 2 weeks ago, I think, Salesforce announced that they are thinking of having no more UI interaction with Salesforce. Imagine that. The whole interaction model will be agentic in their vision, right? So what used to be valuable in the space of, can you give me business user interfaces? Can you give me low-code UI builders? All such value propositions that we see in the market are becoming meaningless because user interfaces are being built with AI in no time, right? Look at the dashboard that Abhishek showed, right? That took him what?
2 days.
Well,
Less
yeah,
than 2 days.
and so it is super fast, right? The value is no longer in that layer. The value is in stringing together all your data sources and adding intelligent reasoning with AI on top of it to produce an outcome for your customer. And that flexibility Camunda gives you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Maybe just one thing to add, hearing from both of them and seeing them in other contexts as well. It's the scalability, right? So I think Rob already mentioned, but maybe drawing attention to it, especially when you have thousands and if not millions of transactions going on. For each of those transactions, that process instance can be kept alive, can be tracked over time, and can be consistently executed, right? And that platform gives you that flexibility to do it. Hence, if you look at the customers, it's been predominantly in these use cases where they need that reliability, flexibility, and scalability within the environment that forms Camunda use cases. Looking at the time, we're on the dot. Maybe I'm just going to do one last slide as a closure before I say thank you to everyone and follow up with you. How can we implement this, right? So I think you might have gotten instances of timelines dropped into it. So this is much faster than whatever we could imagine in terms of solution delivery. So 3 ways we could possibly take this forward. If you're not sure where to apply, we could do our opportunities workshop. I'll follow up with the deck as well. Do reach out. That's to explore what sort of process you have. Where does it make sense for us to try out and test? Everything that you have seen as a POC today has been done in a week, for being fundamentally rebuilt in a week, including dashboards and interfaces. So we could do a design sprint of sorts in a week or 2 to help entire stakeholders to visualize any process that you can think of in your organization. If you are, then we could move towards piloting Camunda. While it can be very fast, we are not just talking about orchestration layer. It could be connecting to your existing systems, creating fundamentally new interfaces. That entire solution should be holistic to address all the different users involved in this ecosystem of those processes as well. So that's why the pilot, probably the first pilot, you might want to take time to build practices, capabilities. Then your subsequent process, you might end up literally launching in every sprint, right? So the pilot might want to put it proper guardrails in place from an infrastructure standpoint as well. So these are different ways we could possibly work together. But yeah, open to, we'll follow up with both the slide deck as well as the recording as well. And based on the IMDA, we also have a checklist in place if you're interested in what to check before moving your pilots into production. We will also share that as well. And we are on the dot, just a minute on. If nothing, thanks everyone for joining. I know some message while dropping half